Hello everybody, we are working on a deal for 1,000 multi-network SIM cards for a really big brand. A brand that you have probably heard of and maybe used in the catering industry. And this one is getting really close. And I was just going to explain to you the elements that we're providing to them, why it's important to them, and probably why KeySIM is one of the only providers in this country that would be able to deliver to their specification. So, let's get straight in. The first element of the specification is, it must be multi-network. It must connect onto Vodafone, O2, EE, and 3. That's because they need the absolute widest area coverage that is possible. In your phones, you have probably got access to one of them networks. But when you see a multi-network SIM alongside it and look at the difference in coverage, there is a massive uplift in coverage area when you stuff all 4 mobile networks onto a single SIM card. So it has to be multi-network, and that's the base level of KeySIM, so tick. Next, they need to be not steered. Steering is when you have a multi-network SIM card that massively favours one of the networks that it can connect to, okay? And this happens when the provider has got preferential commercial agreements with a particular network. So they steer all the traffic through the cheapest one. We don't like that. We think that if you're using a multi-network SIM, it's because you need the best coverage and you need the best network. So they're completely unsteered. We have zero preference which of these networks the modem chooses to connect to. It's a big point. Next one, they need secure remote access to their systems. Their systems may be they may have a SIM card directly installed, or they may send a SIM card in a router to a client site. But these are splattered everywhere, all across the UK. There's some in Europe, which isn't a problem because there's between 2 and 4 networks in every single EU country on a KeySIM. So for that, we give them a secure VPN, they log on to the VPN, and that actually brings them into the core KeySIM network. So, I mean, you might ask, what is the KeySIM core network then? Well, it's a Tele2 IoT backbone, so it's Tele2 that contracts with the networks. We don't deal with like 500 global networks directly. They do that, and then we call it the first mile connectivity into our own UK-based internet service provider, and we pop out to the internet from 4 data centers for resilience and a backup in Geneva, just for good measure. So, because we can bring them on net, we are able to give the customer remote access to the private IP address on the SIM card. So it's not the public IP address on the SIM card. There's a marked difference because with a private IP, they are the only entity that's going to be able to connect to it over the VPN. With a public IP address, you watching now can go onto Google and hit the interface of the router or the system straight from your PC. It's a horrific way of doing it. Even if you firewall your IP addresses into the system, it's still going to have the conversation and get bounced back. So denial of service attack just takes you down. The terrible things, public IPs. Anyway, we deal with that using private IP remote access. Next one, and this is the biggie. They need the SIM card to not work on the most popular social media platforms. And one of them is YouTube, ironically. So they don't want the SIM card to be able to access YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Netflix, Snapchat, and there's some other ones. They've basically said, can you blacklist these websites so it cannot work on them, which we've done. So it's a special build. And it might change. They may say, can you add BBC, whatever. So they need to make sure that the users that are using these can only do the specific function that they desire. And they've asked us to knock off these websites, basically. There would be another way of doing it, and that would be to restrict access purely to their range of IPs, but they say that's too narrow because sometimes the users do need to access other websites and systems. So we can't just lock it to certain IPs, which is an alternative way of achieving similar. We do that for other customers. So we've built that part as well. And we are now sending out the trial SIMs. So they're taking 5 KeySIMs and one of them inside the Teltonica routers that we sell. We love these little 4G connectivity hubs that Teltonica do. You can do so much with them. I would need to cover it on another video, but they are just amazing for the price. If we can bag this 1,000, look, it's a big deal for KeySIM, because at the minute, it's taken us like 5 years to connect 5,000 SIM cards. We had a slow start, look, because we incorporated just before the lockdowns, and then we couldn't trade, you see. And then as soon as we've got going and it's taken off, we've got to 5K. We think we can get from 5K to 10K in 6 months. And deals like this 1,000 are really going to help us get there. So there we go. We're going to set up the test account now, get these shipped, and no doubt I'll do another video and I'll let you know if we got it or not. Let's see.